Welcome back to this course. This course is Introduction to Database Design. This is video number 17, and we are currently covering session 9. In session 9, we will discuss domain integrity, enterprise constraints and business rules, and relationship types. So constraints sometimes come up as a topic which has a reputation for being a little confusing, but it's not really confusing at all. Constraints are an important feature in a relational data model. So a constraint is almost always enforced by the database management product, and it has to do with the data that goes into a column. So the relational model supports the well-defined theory of constraints on attributes and tables. So what we're going to do is constrain attributes or columns to only accept certain types of data. This not only helps with the with how your database interacts and how it behaves as far as the modeled enterprise, but it also helps to have it run more efficient and have it be optimized, because certain data doesn't require the same memory as other data. So performance can also be optimized as well. So what we're looking to do is enforce that when dates are needed, that only date type of data can be entered into a column. When numeric data is needed, so data that we may operate on, do some arithmetic on, or some mathematic calculations, that only that data is in a column. And when text data is required. And there are certainly other types of data. So constraints are useful because they allow a designer to specify the semantics of a database. And again, constraints are the rules that enforce the DBMS to check that the data satisfies those semantics. So there are several kinds of integrities and constraints described below. So entity integrity, and here we're looking to ensure that is required that every table have a primary key, and this is a best practice, and most database products will enforce this. It is almost really impossible to have a functional database without at least one column as the primary key. And then there's referential integrity, and that requires that a foreign key must have a matching primary key, or it must be null. This constraint is specified between two tables, parent and child, and it maintains the correspondence between the rows in these tables. It means the reference from the row in one table to another must be valid. Welcome back to this video. This is video 18. We are still in session 9, and in this video we are going to discuss enterprise constraints and business rules. So enterprise constraints are sometimes referred to as semantic constraints, and they are additional rules specified by the enterprise. So they're really rules for the enterprise, and we get these rules from users, business analysts, or even database administrators, and they can be based on or enforced on multiple tables. So these are the rules of the enterprise that we look to model into our database. So here are some examples. A class can have a maximum of 30 students. So obviously there is a constraint there to limit the size of a class to 30. A teacher can teach a maximum of 4 classes per semester. So again, we see more of a business or an enterprise rule there, which we will build into our database and our application as well. An employee cannot take part in more than 5 projects. The salary of an employee cannot exceed the salary of the employee's manager. Again, these are business rules that we will build into and enforce through our application and database. And business rules are obtained from users when gathering requirements. The requirements gathering process is very important, and its results should be verified by the user before the database design is built. And these business rules also give us some valid business rules or just valid requirements to test against. So we have a good test case. If the business rules are incorrect, the design will be incorrect, and ultimately the application will not meet the expectations of the users. So some examples of business rules are, again, a teacher can teach many students, a class can have a maximum of 35, a course can be taught many times but only by one instructor, and not all instructors teach classes. So again, these are more examples of enterprise type rules and requirements that we look to implement through our application and database design. Welcome back to this video. This is video 19 of our course, Introduction to Database Design. In this video, we are going to discuss relationship types. So we're talking about relationship types. There are many instances of relationships, but they fall into these types here: optional relationships and mandatory relationships. So with an optional relationship, the two entities may or may not interact with one another. So they don't require participation from one another. So we could see here is an example, a project and a consultant. Not every project will have a consultant, and there may be times when a consultant doesn't have a project. And then there are mandatory relationships, and those are relationships where the two entities must participate or interact with one another. And here is an example, a barber and a customer. So when a customer gets his or her haircut, the barber must always be there. So in this case, it's a mandatory relationship for these two entities to participate.